Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to welcome everybody to the September meeting of Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks Commission meeting. We will get started with, do we have any guests that we need to recognize this morning?
There's no guest.
No guests, okay.
Only online.
Only online. Well, we welcome everybody that's online with us. Glad to have everybody with us this morning and glad you joined. So let's have our opening prayer. Mr. Cook, would you?
Pray with me, please. Great is your faithfulness, O Lord. When our efforts fall short, when our faith fails, you remain faithful. We give you thanks this morning for just the opportunity to come in this place and to deliberate the issues that will be presented during these proceedings today. We take very seriously your commission that give us dominion over your creation. And we pray, oh God, that all that we do and all that we say will be pleasing and acceptable in your holy sight. We pray, oh God, that your presence will be with this nation, with the state of Mississippi, and with the men and women of this department as we continue to do those things that you have charged us to do. We pray that you would keep us safe as we deal with the results of this raging pandemic. And Father, we know that you are in charge of all things, and all things works according to your holy and righteous plan. Be with us now as we attend to the affairs of this day. These and all blessings we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So we reviewing the minutes of August minutes. Has anybody got any questions? I don't think, we don't have any public comments if we didn't have any visitors, so okay.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that motion. I read it.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you very much. So let's have a report. I know since Jason is here, we're going to have a good report on license sales.
Wait a minute, we've got to have.
No, agenda. I'm sorry. We may, do we have a change on the
No
agenda?
change. No change.
We don't?
We're gonna have, no,
Okay,
we're gonna have executive session, if that's what it is.
okay. All right.
So we need to approve the agenda?
Oh, I'm
Move to
sorry.
approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, Mr. Coster. Keep us in order. Keep me in order. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Trying to help you out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Jason.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the report for the month of August showed that total revenue is down a little over 1%. But looking at the numbers, that's due to the first weekend of dove season falling at the end of the week. So most of our license purchases for dove season came in September. So to kind of get a better idea of where we are, we generated another report that ends September the 15th. So we'll be presenting this one. So this report shows that the total revenue is up 14% compared to last year.
Great.
And resident license sales are up 10%. Sportsman's licenses are up 6%. The all game freshwater fishing up 7%, small game 10%.
Jason, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
If y'all, are y'all on page that says license sales comparison, it's this month?
To 9:15?
Right.
All right.
And WMA permits are up 18%. Non-resident license sales are also up, total of 20%. Fishing licenses are up. The annual freshwater fishing up 28%, 3-day up 19%, and the 1-day up 5%.
Now say that fishing license up, that's year to year.
Yes, sir, first couple of months of this fiscal year compared to, so 28% for the annual
So we've got a
freshwater.
28% increase in,
Yes, sir.
that's fantastic.
19% 3-day, and the 1-day up 5%. And the permit category, we're up 15%, and lifetime license sales are up 21%. WMA app downloads for this fiscal year, 1,369 downloads, 977 iOS users, and 392 Android users. From July The 1st through August the 31st, a total of 6,941 customers signed up for auto renewal. The month of August, we had 4,162 to sign up. And from July 1st, 2019 through August the 31st, we sold a total of 1,167 packages. I think on your report, there's a typo there. The first couple of months, it was 1,162. For the entire year, dating all the way back to July 1st of last year, 9,850 packages sold.
I've heard a lot of compliments on the packages.
Good.
Yeah.
Easy to do, click up a couple of buttons to get it online.
Let me ask you a question. We were asked by the foundation.
Yes, sir.
So on our online sales, online license sales, we have a check box if you would like to make a donation to the foundation.
We do.
So when our operations, call operations, are working the phones when somebody calls in, or do we have a third, it's all us. We don't have a third party on that, do we?
We have a third
We
party,
do?
1-800-5GO-HUNT.
1-800-5GO-HUNT.
Yes.
Can we have a option in there to where they ask the question, would you like to make a donation to the foundation?
Absolutely. We can put it in the sales flow.
Can we put it in the sales flow?
We can.
Could you make that happen for us?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How many people are renewing licenses on their app? Do you have any idea? Is it fair good amount, or is it?
Maybe 50-60% now versus the online portal, so more people are trending to doing it on the app versus doing it through the portal.
You said 50 or 60% doing it on the app?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and on the app, you have the option to donate to the foundation.
You do.
And
The online, it's got a thing that
right, and on
says,
the app too, and so is an amount, I'm trying to remember how does it say donate a certain amount, $5, $10?
Not a certain amount, I don't believe, but it just asks the question, would you like to donate to the foundation? So at the end of the transaction, customers are allowed to put a dollar amount.
Put a
in
dollar
their
amount,
field.
okay.
yeah, I think for everybody that's listening, what we're talking about is, of course, the 501c3 foundation that is out there that is got a lot of good things going on, including AIMS and the archery in schools and scholastic shooting, and if any of you can support that foundation, we'd ask you to please do that if you can do that. That's good. One more question. Oh, I know one more thing. It may not be in your realm of responsibility, but I think for everybody who's listening, we need to know. We got a new app. We have a new app that's coming out. It's live now, or will be live.
You can
Is it?
download it today.
Okay.
Parts of that part.
So we've got a new app out that's out there in the App Center today. You got to go to Apple or Android Apps
Correct.
Center and download Mississippi Parks,
State park.
Mississippi State Parks, and it's named that for a reason because of search rescue. But you can actually go and put that app in place. You can reserve RV slots. You can reserve whatever the amenities are at the parks for that, and that is a really great feature for people out there to go and do and download that app. It's a good thing. So that's brand new. I mean, that's brand new, like
Yeah,
this
today.
week. So it's a really great thing. So you'll be seeing social media and marketing on that soon. It's really good stuff. All right. Anybody got any questions? All righty. So we'll move on to wildlife. And I think we got a gator season update with the gator man himself.
Good morning. Morning, Dr. Polis, Mr. Cook, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning and present to you a preliminary report for the 2020 alligator hunting season here in Mississippi. You have a one-page document there. I'm going to go over some of that information as well as some more. First thing I'd like to mention is that as a result of the COVID-19 situation this year, we were forced to cancel the alligator hunting training course, and as a result of that, we were able to force our own hand in developing an online alligator hunting training course. And I'd like to personally thank Chip Ward, who works tirelessly over a couple of weeks to get that done and put in production on our website. And that is available now. Hunters can go to our website now and watch the online alligator hunting training course 365 days a year now. And we'll be adding more information to it. And to date, we have over 2,100 views of those videos. There are actually 11 video segments there for people to watch on the various aspects of the alligator hunting training course. This year we had a new high of number of applicants that put in for the alligator hunting permits on public waters. We had 5,548 applicants that exceeded last year's number by about 500 or 600. And this year the harvest, or the number of permits issued, was actually 986. And the reported harvest as of this moment is 941 total alligators taken. That does include public waters as well as private lands. 872 alligators on public waters, 69 alligators on private lands. Just to give you some information on those harvest numbers, 8 of those alligators were in the 13-foot class range. 36 of those were in the 12-foot range, 88 in the 11-foot range, and 80 alligators in the 10-foot range.
That's the biggest, I mean, it's come up, right?
That is actually trending over the last few years, even going back to 2012. The numbers are very consistent, which is something that I find very good, that regardless of the number of years that we continue to offer these numbers of permits, the harvest rates continue to stay very consistent.
Any new record?
No new records this year. There were a number of alligators that were weighed and measured in the 13-foot class range. I think the longest one was 13 feet 8 inches that actually came from the Pearl River Ross Barnett zone. I heard reports of several alligators in excess of 750 pounds, but the record is going to take over 14 feet and a half inch, or 833 pounds, I believe is the current weight record. So the records have gotten to the point now that it's going to be kind of tough for those records to be broken. Over those first few years, we saw records being broken every year. Now we've kind of reached the threshold, and so it'll be interesting to see when those records get broken. In your reports, you see the breakdown of the harvest of alligators within each of the 7 alligator hunting zones on public waters. Again, the numbers are quite consistent across the board. And then I'd like to report on the law enforcement effort by the agency. You see the numbers for 2020 compared to 2019. I have to be honest, I was a little surprised. In my mind, I felt like we had not checked as many alligator hunters this year as we had the previous year, but we actually exceeded that. We have 1,680 hunters that were checked by law enforcement during the alligator season, 616 different vessels, and the citations were only 59, down almost half of the number of citations we wrote in 2019.
Way to go, Mississippi. That's good.
Yeah, so that's good. And also along those lines, we have no reported accidents among alligator hunters, either by wounds or anything of the sort, much less any boating accidents. So that was a very good statistic.
So Ricky, how many people, for instance, everybody's got to have a permit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I didn't get a permit and I still wanted to go alligator hunting, how many people did we actually catch that were alligator hunting that did not have a permit? Is that?
I have that. Let me find that. It was very small.
I would think so. I wouldn't think about going out there without a permit, but I'm sure some.
They must not have been checking in
So-
South Mississippi.
So with over 1,600 hunters checked,
Yeah.
12 citations were written for no alligator hunting license. That's pretty good.
Because you can't be in the boat without it.
Right, if you're 16 years of age or older in the vessel with the hunting equipment, then you must be licensed.
And that's a $25 permit.
That's the $25 permit.
Right. They have to have a hunting license plus the $25 permit.
Correct.
Right. And if they're the permit holder, they pay a $200, they get the tag, and $200.
Right.
Right.
Every
So for
every
each
hunting
boat, they
party
gotta have
has
one-
to have
one
a
guy's
permit
got-
holder in
yeah.
the vessel with
Just
them.
making sure the other commissioners knew how it worked. And so when you have a citation, it was usually for the $25, people not having that, or did you catch anybody not having the $200 thing?
No, we did not. We did not encounter anybody that did not have a permit holder within their hunting party.
But some of the people in the party didn't have their,
Right. Some,
That hadn't
yeah,
bought the-
individuals possibly didn't have their alligator hunting
Okay.
license with them. An interesting statistic is that with that 872 alligators harvested on public waters, only 60% of the alligator hunters actually harvested an alligator. And this is something I bring up every year, that without this additional information, that may seem a little shocking, that only 60% are successful in harvesting. But 2,070 alligators were captured and released by alligator hunters during this season. So it's really not a matter of are they successful to be able to catch an alligator. Alligator hunters are being selective in choosing which alligators they want to harvest, much like Larry Pugh's bunch that likes to go out and bass fish and catch and release bass. They're doing the same thing with alligators and
You
being
seen that
very
increase?
selective.
Have you seen an increase in that?
The numbers of alligators caught and released every year is fairly consistent,
Yeah.
anywhere from 1,100 to 2,000 or so. So, then 85% participation among those people who had a permit. 85% of them actually went and hunted at least one night. So that's pretty good. And then I'd also like to brag on the revenue that is generated by the alligator hunting permit system this year. $289,625 in revenue among the various permits and licenses that are offered for alligator hunting in Mississippi. Then I would be remiss if I don't mention the number of people that we are actually recruiting to become MDWFP license holders. We started running these statistics going back to 2008 and looking at, of all the people who have bought an alligator hunting license, that's the $25 alligator hunting license, how many of them are first-time MDWFP customers? On average, since 2008, that number has been about 6.19% of our alligator hunters are first-time licensed buyers. This year, it was 4.27%. That's the lowest that I've had. It has been as high as 7.5% of those hunters. Numbers-wise, you're talking about somewhere between 130 to 207 new MDWFP license holders every year as a result of alligator hunting license. And I ran these numbers because in our efforts out checking hunters every year, I was having conversations with people who were saying, you know, hey, this is my daughter, this is my grandson, this is my great-grandfather. He's never bought a hunting license before in Mississippi, and this is the first time he's ever gone out, and they are expressing how much they really enjoy alligator hunting. And so I found it interesting to go and look for that information, and it's very interesting. And given these times of license sales concern that we have, I think that's a very good statistic. And let me go through here and see if I'm missing something that I failed to mention. The average length overall for alligators harvested was 7.75 feet. And if you remember, alligator hunters can harvest alligators over and under 7 feet. The average for alligators under 7 feet was 5.88 feet, and for those over 7 feet was 9.83 feet long. And only 30% of the harvest were female alligators, and that is a positive number. That's something that we want to see happening as a result of our techniques and what we're offering, the time of year, the framework, that we are actually giving some protection to that female aspect of the population.
What was the female percentage again?
30%.
30%. And why is that during the time of the year? Because they're not mating, they're off?
It has more to do with the fact that they have been nesting, they have just recently hatched, so those females are holding a very tight home range during this time, and most of those females are going to be found in much thicker aquatic vegetation that is typically inaccessible by most alligator hunters. And I would argue that most of that female population that's being harvested are actually those juvenile alligators that have not yet become breeding age. So that's a good statistic.
When you're looking at harvest and size, what slot are you looking at as far as having an impact on control or holding the population? What are you looking at there?
So that's a good question. If y'all remember back years ago, when we started offering multiple alligators to be harvested by one permit holder, we first started out allowing them 2 alligators. And we found in the early years that most alligator hunters, like many hunters and fishermen, are more gravitated to the trophy. And so the harvest was being highly skewed towards those larger alligators. And even though they had the opportunity to harvest smaller alligators, they didn't do that. So we made that adjustment that of your 2 alligators, only one of those could exceed 7 feet. And every year, very consistently, it has shown that we are now pushing the harvest to where we are at 50-50% as far as alligators under 7 feet and over 7 feet, which essentially is juveniles under sexual maturity to adults who are sexually mature. And so I'm enjoying seeing that those numbers are headed that way. In relation to your question, the important thing to see is that the distribution of alligators being harvested size class wise by 1 foot size classes is staying the same. So I don't see at this point that we are having any kind of a negative impact on the number of adult alligators out there available for people to harvest. And add in the fact that 2,070 are being caught and released each year.
Right.
How does where you're doing it compared to other states? I mean, obviously Louisiana and Florida have a lot more, Alabama's similar, South Carolina, Georgia. Is there anything other states are doing you like, or you feel like you've got a good balance what you're doing?
I would like to say we've got the best program going.
I like the way you think.
You like that? I mean, you have the benefit of looking at where everybody's going, so. I mean, obviously our habitat's different, the numbers are different.
We go to these regional and national meetings, and if I can, if you can't toot your own horn, who will? I get into conversations with other state agencies, and to be honest, there are a lot of other state agencies that have followed us in alligator hunting, just like we mimicked our first alligator hunting season compared to what Georgia was doing. Their season gave me a lot of ideas to birth our first opportunity. Alabama, Arkansas, South Carolina, and now North Carolina is looking at our program because of the interest and the success. They're looking at our tagging program and the information that we're gleaning from harvest reports of tagged alligators, which by incident, we have 13 alligators reported this year that are alligators that MDWFP has previously tagged and released. And so we're getting tag returns on those, and
pretty cool.
Some very, very cool information
I bet.
coming from those alligators.
So when does it wind up,
What's that?
the season?
The season
Still got
will
private.
end, the private lands portion will end on Monday
Monday.
at 6 a.m. in the morning. So they've got one more weekend left.
So do you have any concerns about private lands participation not being what you'd like to see as far as percentage of participation?
It looks like this year the participation is going to be up. We'll know more after we get all those reports in. As I've reported before, the majority of our private land permit holders are large property owners, and a large proportion of those are agricultural-based homeowners or landowners. Many of them do not participate until they get their crops in. And so I see participation,
Towards the end.
fluctuating depending on the year and the types of conditions that are going on. I'm not alarmed by participation there, but I think it's very important that we're offering them an opportunity and we give them that extended period of 23 days to give them some flexibility to be able to go. And those hunters on private lands who do participate usually harvest an alligator. But you do have a certain number of those that have gone through the process to get a permit, knowing that they probably are not going to get an opportunity to go, but they want to go ahead and secure that opportunity, whether they get to go or not.
How about this effect on the nuisance alligators? I mean, the seasons, you think probably helps on that?
I don't think that the alligator hunting season has any kind of a significant effect on nuisance alligators. Most of those nuisance alligator complaints are not going to be on these public waterways where alligator hunting is allowed. They're occurring in private ponds, in residential areas where alligators have moved from one place to another and just wound up the wrong place at the wrong time.
Or perhaps one like the reservoir where people fed them or something like that?
Yeah, and the majority of the alligator hunting in that Pearl River zone is taking place above Highway 43. And if it's on the main lake, it's not down in the residential areas of the reservoir on purpose.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Great report.
Great report. All right. Russ?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several things for us on the agenda today. Thank you, Clint, for that report. The second item for us on the agenda, you see there, is Rule 8.2, regulations for enclosures preventing the free ingress and egress of white-tailed deer. Last month, we had brought the rule to you and had made changes to the language in that rule to reflect the statute change that went into effect July 1 of 2020. And so that amended language is still in this rule. But also there was the request to look at a minimum number of deer that needed to be tested annually from enclosures. And so we have further proposed language this month. On page 2 there, in Rule 8.2, you'll see in Section 5C, we have added language there. I think it may be highlighted in yellow for you on the page 2, Section 5C. That language now reads, additionally, 1 deer per 100 acres must be tested annually for CWD. If no samples are submitted, MDWFP will coordinate a sampling required deer with the enclosure owner. So that would be the minimum number of deer that we propose will be tested annually, in addition to the language we offered last month that would reflect the statute change of Senate Bill 2722.
So an example would be for 1,000 acres, you'd sample
10 deer.
10 deer.
That's correct, yes, sir.
If you have 3,500 acres, it'd be 35.
Right.
And if you had, say if you had 3,500 acres, and you got a 1,000 acre enclosure, a 1,000 acre enclosure, and a 1,000 acre enclosure, you'd have to do 10 within each fence.
If they're individual enclosures.
If they're separate.
And the number for this, I failed to mention, this comes from the data that has been submitted in prior years. So we went back 5 years on this data, and the data reflects that on average there's been 1 deer harvested per 100 acres across enclosures that are registered in Mississippi. So this data, this proposal is reflective of the data that we received.
So if a fence closure doesn't kill a deer, your folks will go in and take those deer?
Well, we can coordinate with them on collecting those samples. And this, the 1 per 100 acres can include any type of mortality. Does not just speaking to harvested deer. So any type of mortality. If they find a dead deer that's still viable sample, that deer can count as 1 per 100.
Did you get?
But they have the option to harvest the deer. All right.
Sure.
And there's an email biologist that works with every enclosure? Is that correct?
Most enclosures have a biologist, whether it be a private biologist or with the agency.
And so, is your staff, is there somebody that's assigned to each enclosure, or they?
No, not assigned to each enclosure, no. If they have their own biologist, then we don't have one assigned to them.
But are the biologists, like DMAP, are they, the ones that use them are certified? I mean, not certified, or approved by you? Yeah.
They're certified.
I guess I was trying to get a feel for how many biologists are out there working on individual enclosures.
I don't have that number. We could look for that, and I don't have that.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking it just, in my view, that 1 deer, 100 acres probably is a good, and probably generally is a good go by, but it might be examples where the email biologist may decide there's something different, you know? A deer, because if there's 2 deer in 100 acres, sampling 1 doesn't make sense. If there's 100 deer, you know, what I'm saying is within each 100 acres, it may vary.
Does the biologist have any flexibility in this to decide we only need 1 per 200 acres? Or conversely, we need 1 every 50 acres? Because I would think it would be based on the population, to what Billy's saying. The number you need to harvest would be based on how many deer are in that pen, not necessarily just
Or how big
across
that
the board.
enclosure is, you know?
And this number, the 1 per 100, looking at the data would be on the conservative end. If you look at harvest across enclosures, it's going to be a very conservative number.
We've tried percentages, it didn't work. We're
Right.
trying to reach out.
No, we understand, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had any input from any owners about this proposal?
Not this number, no.
This will go out for 30 days again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
this will be
what
going for 30 days.
I would propose that we would just add language to say additionally, you know, 1 deer per 100 acres must be tested annually for CWD unless the EMAP biologist recommends otherwise, to give some flexibility. You don't like that, Sam?
Well,
That's what I was trying to ask, is the biologist not working with them?
the biologist is working for that person, but they can communicate, but this, once it goes in the rule, then if we go out there and our staff says we need to sample 1 per 100 acres, we believe that, he says, no, you don't need but 5, where are we then? You gonna give the authority to the final decision to the commission or to the EMAT biologist?
You know what I'm saying is, I feel like there ought to be flexibility for, given the population.
Well, we can look at it again, don't go to 1 per 100 acres, but we were basing it on every size facility we know about.
We've got some very professional facilities that do a really good job and coordinate and work with us all the time, right?
Sure.
Personally, I'd like for you to go back and talk to them, you know, before, I mean, I'd like for you guys to talk to them from a biology standpoint and see, you know, what would be palatable and sanctioned, you know, and say what's a good thing is not, you know, onerous or whatever that we're doing, and we're getting what we need, because we were having trouble getting the 10. And so,
Well,
I think this is-
are you suggesting that we table this and go back out for input from the high fence officer?
That's what I would
of all the
suggest.
various sizes?
yes.
And then we got bow season coming up, October, but it's, I think 1 per 100 acres, generally, it's probably a good average, it just may not be the right number in every case. None of us are high fence people.
No, that's
We don't
not-
know we don't know how it works, but,
Um,
Need a motion?
Well, it'd have to
If
be
you're gonna- if you're
from an
gonna-
October
If you're
time.
gonna accept this or table it, you need a motion,
Make a motion.
For more input.
For more input.
Yeah.
That's the motion.
Because, let me say this, let me ask this question before we vote on that. Currently, today, it says you gotta do up to 10. So we're not doing anything to dilute what was already there, correct?
You know, this rule is still, the current
Exists.
rule is still standing.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
this rule is
So I mean, they still gotta do the sampling, so I mean,
Yeah, up
even
to
though we're gonna
10
be
is-
in the, yeah.
But the,
But the state says you gotta kill everyone, you have to sample everyone that's harvested or dies, right?
Yeah,
that's the
Right.
statute,
that's the statute,
That's
that's
the
the law.
statute.
that,
For right.
that would be,
right?
It's
that would be in
gonna
conflict.
change,
That would be in
I
conflict.
imagine.
Do what?
that would be in conflict. If the rule stands, if we get into deer season and this rule still stands as is, it would be in conflict with statute. The up to 10 would be in conflict.
Well,
Correct?
well, it's in conflict either way.
It's also superseded by statute.
Statute that supersedes.
So,
It's somewhat of a
whatever you put
non,
right here,
it's somewhat of a non-issue, because the statute supersedes, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but we're talking about,
We're talking about mandatory sampling that you
That's
have
right.
to do. We're trying to come up with a
being
number.
compliant, mandatory sample.
Okay.
Because if some facility
So you
said,
got two issues.
yeah, two issues, some facility doesn't harvest any deer, then they wouldn't provide any samples. So
Right.
what we're trying to get to is where at least there's some samples.
That's right.
That's right.
And the only question is, what's the right number?
That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. So it's two issues you're looking at.
So we have a motion to table for further input.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second. All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? All right, we'll table that.
So assuming during bow season, whatever they harvest is supposed to be given, they're supposed to give samples.
By law.
By
By law.
By law.
By statute.
That's right. Okay?
Second item on the agenda there is Rule 9.1. This will be a new rule. So in the legislative session for 2020, Senate Bill 2723 was passed, and in that bill, it provided the authority to extend certain hunting seasons that ended on a Friday through the following weekend. And so we propose Rule 9.1 today is opening and closing days for hunting seasons. And this rule would reflect what was passed in Senate Bill 2723. And so that was you see items 1 through 4 there. That would be for deer season that ends on a Friday, would extend 30 minutes after sunset on the following Sunday. Same for bobwhite quail and wild turkey. The same for small game seasons, and the same for fur-bearing animals. Any of those seasons that end on Friday, you would have the option to extend those to the following Sunday if you so choose. It's not automatic, it's only if you choose to do that.
I move staff recommendation.
A second?
All in favor?
Uh,
Motion carries.
That's a good, that's a good
Mhm.
practice. My friend Walter Michelle, they introduced that.
Real quick for me, I know Chief Hadcock's going to give you an update on dove season. From the wildlife side of things, on WMAs, our man days were, in the first 15 days of September, they were pretty much the same as last season. Harvest was down about 500 birds. We're talking with folks across the private land spectrum. It was kind of a mixed bag. Some folks had really good shoots. Some folks had a lot of birds right before season, but then crop harvest started and birds scattered. But so far, seems to be
Okay.
on average a good season. So.
I mean, I forgot to ask Jason a question. Jason, I know we had some, I mean, it's a blessing and it's a curse. We had a really strong license sales there the day before dove season, and it crashed. So many, it crashed the system. Have we made improvements to it to where we don't, I mean, I don't know that you'd have that again like that, but we might.
We might, and we had a call actually with both vendors, so we're trying to see exactly what happened, but, the initial reason that we got was everybody, 2,000 some odd people hit the same page at the same time, and that's what crashed the system. So they have some things that they're gonna put in place in preparation for deer season
Deer
is
season.
coming up, so it won't happen.
That'd be your next big push, wouldn't it, be
How
deer season?
how long did it last, Jason, the crash?
We brought the system all the way down on the 4th at 6:30 that evening, and it didn't come back up until Saturday at 2:30.
Oh,
So everybody. that-
but I mean, somebody that made an effort, like, what happened with that, chief? And that- Oh, you gonna talk about that? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Point of order.
Mr. Chairman, as I understand it, the motion was to table 8.2.
I assume that was, if that's not proper.
8.2 has already been out for 30 days as a proposed rule.
Oh, I thought,
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Under this whole Administrative Procedures Act, rulemaking scheme, we need to do something with that rule. Since we've substantially altered it, may I suggest that the commission withdraw the rule and we come back with a new proposed version?
Now, let me make sure I understand. So, on 8.2, what we have in highlighted is new. It has not been out for 30 days.
he said it's been out for 30 days.
The
No.
one for 100, one deer for
Has
100
not.
acres, that provision has not been out
Correct.
for consideration yet.
Which is what we tabled.
You take the
That's
whole thing.
you
The whole
take
thing.
whole rule.
What he's saying, the whole thing's about for 30 days, so what we need to do is withdraw this and then ask,
And then
they'll
start-
come back with a new-
Start over with the new 8.2
Just-
proposed.
so it can be within the
Keep us straight,
procedural.
whatever you say we need to do.
Yes, sir.
So that's the direction I'm looking for here to,
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it.
Is-
work within the system.
In other words, those two items are not, they're together, they're not separate.
That's correct.
Because it's all part of the same.
It's all part of the same deal. So-
Okay.
So, Scott, do you want
You ever make a motion to withdraw that one?
8.2.
Yep. And,
Second? For further input.
that's right, yeah.
Second?
I second it.
to, Coster second before?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Where were we at?
Why'd you figure that out?
I mean,
Law enforcement.
Why you tell me?
Thank you, gentlemen.
For the month of August, we wrote a total of 308 citations, the top 5 were no license. At 82, trespassing at 35, violation of running lights, 25, PFD violations, 23, and no WMA permits, 21. During this time period, we had the alligator season, we've got some pictures there, officers working that. And also, prior to September, which I'll go into September dove season, but prior to September is when we're actually working, gathering data on, or evidence, documenting evidence on dove fields. You got a few pictures of that. Got some pictures there of the dove hunt at Muscadine, officers assisting there. Hall and Blackburn are still banding ducks in Newton County.
Cool.
That's a real interesting thing to watch.
I bet.
They're doing a good job on that. I don't have the numbers. Do you know how many that they have banned over there? I can't. The customer counts have been pretty steady at the shooting ranges. 888 at Turcotte, 583 at McIver, and 472 at McHenry.
Are they trending year to year up, same? Well, I mean, you can't really tell because of COVID, probably
Right.
this year.
That COVID has affected it because we were shut down for a period of time.
Yeah, yeah.
And also it affected tournaments, which tournaments boost numbers and revenue also. But they do seem to be, this time of the year, they'll pick up. You know, nobody wants to go shoot in July.
Now,
But this time of the year, it'll pick up, these cooler days, people, they'll go to the ranges.
yeah. Need to get out there and see those ranges. They're great. They're fantastic.
And then the rifle ranges will be covered up.
Covered up.
During the month of October.
So every one of them, everyone has a rifle range?
Yes, sir.
Every single one?
Yes, sir.
McHenry has a 5-stand or something for sporting clays, but not a sporting clay course, right?
Correct. And we're in the middle of that. We have completed the grant process. We've already got drawings, so we're moving along with that. We had fixing to go out to the bid process on that.
Are there the scholastic sports happening now, or that's during school? Or
They've been kind of shut down during this COVID time, but they should pick back up.
So the season actually begins now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It should start picking up in the next month.
Okay. And we've got that all procedures to do that, and we know how to do it and
Yes,
that kind of.
We put a complete procedure.
And how many
together.
schools do we now have in it? I think it's 160, no, 65?
I can't remember. Right off.
We had a report on that, but I can't remember. But it's great participation.
Yes, sir.
So
going on. So far, it's just great.
The last I saw, I think we had 21 new schools.
Yeah.
They come on board.
This year,
Right.
yeah, that's good.
Okay, our dove season report. We had a total of 133 officers. We checked 4,942 dove hunters. We checked 446 dove fields. 31 of those fields were baited fields that we worked. We had actually gone in ahead of time and documented evidence on those before we went in. We wrote a total of 111 license violations. And your question earlier about how we handled that, one of the things when we found out this was going on, we got the information out to the officers immediately, and we got them to ask a few extra questions. If we checked that guy's license, and his license had just expired within the last couple of weeks, and you can see in the system, he typically buys his license that time. A lot of them were able to show us on their phone where they had tried to call. Those did not get a citation. So the ones that got a citation was the one during your discussion with them. You asked them, did they hunt last year? And they said yes. But you checked the season and they didn't even buy a license last year. They got popped. And,
Yeah.
Those were the ones that got citations. We've had no complaints on that. We've had no,
Good.
we've had no calls that people saying that they shouldn't have gotten it because we did do our homework and checked it.
What other kind of citations did you have during?
47 unplugged shotguns,
47 unplugged.
15 over the limit, 95 baiting citations, 70 unlawful possession, 1 protected bird kill, 1 WMA permit, and 1 legal shooting hours.
So what, did somebody kill an eagle, or what happened?
It's gonna probably be a bird of
Could have been a
prey.
kill deed or
Oh.
something.
Killed it.
That'll work out for some
Mockingbird.
Texas.
But this was from September 5th through 7th, and that was 349 total citations. And we had 1 failure to comply. We had an individual that ran from the officers on an ATV and
So on
was
the,
captured.
on the baited fields, it would be a field where they spread wheat or something, or too dense a pattern, or they,
Well, most
or
of
just
the-
something like, they just put out piles of stuff, or?
Most of the
whatever.
baited fields are corn chops. And of course, that's not a normal agricultural procedure, they would grow. Milo spread out this time of the year. There was some other thing, bird seed, we've had that, chicken scratch, things like that. And the only time that you really deal with wheat on the dove field is if it's piled up, if it's not broadcast at the recommended rate. Or one of the things we look at is multiple applications. where they come in every week and sweeten it up, you got it growing, you got it from this tall to fresh seed on the ground. That's a pretty easy thing to see. And then the officers have some things that they do when they suspect that, especially when they check that field ahead of time. They have things that they can do to see if it has been, or if they continue to add weed to it.
The federal game warden's been around much, or?
We've got some cases that we will take federal, where we have some issues, but they have been slowed down due to COVID.
Okay.
And so we didn't actually have many fields that we actually worked with them this year because of that. They just didn't have the time to be here.
Right. So under normal circumstances, they might have a presence and they just coordinate with you or something, or?
They may have found a field and we assist them, or it may be a field that we found and they may assist us on. And they typically get out and try to work with us, but they didn't have the manpower this year.
The failure to comply, is that what you call it?
Yes, sir.
The four-wheeler guy? What is the fine on that? I mean, that's a real
It's a minimum. I think it's $250 fine.
$250.
Is it when they run from the officer or something?
Update where we are on the cadet class.
We are in week 5. We have 14 cadets that are still there. They're doing very well. We had 2 minor health issues, but they have stayed there 7 days a week. They have not gone home, but we're doing this to limit their, outside exposure, so we don't have a COVID issue. We haven't had anything like that. This seems to be a pretty sharp group. We have 5 of those are prior sworn, and in a couple of weeks, they will actually go under a FTO and start working in the field. The rest of them will start, I believe, in 2 weeks out at Malota. And we're in some discussion with them right now, since we've had them more or less quarantined during this period of time. They've still got to be tested again before they go out there. So we're trying to figure out exactly what they want us to do on that. Whether they want us to actually have them go be tested or do the quick test or whatever. They want a test within 48 hours. In a lot of places, you can't get a test result back in 48 hours. So we're in discussion with the academy on that. But they are doing very well, and hopefully we'll get some graduated out pretty soon and get them to work.
Good deal.
Good, thank you. I'd like to, we're talking about dove season, I'd like to talk about, I don't know if you got any calls or concerns over opening weekend
Yes.
about not being able to get through to get their license.
No.
Yeah.
I did get some, but I mean, it was handled.
Well, the key, I want to give a shout out to Jason
Yeah.
and Brian. What happened on Friday, I mean, Jason was working with it on Friday. You may ought to give accounting of that because.
He did. He just gave us one.
Did he?
Y'all were out.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad it was covered.
He just went over, he just told us that. He got the thing, said, Sam,
I was standing right there, but I was trying.
Yeah, he gave us a
I
rundown.
asked him about it.
It's good.
He
Oh, okay.
reported all over.
Well, I still want to compliment.
I agree.
him. Did a good job, did a great job. I don't know if they told you the timeline, but they came up here on Saturday and with the final discussion I had with them, I said, I wanted people up here at the office answering the phone. And so they did that. Then it came online, but it was the third party. It was not our
Right.
problem.
And just, in other words, if they called in and were able to get to you, you could give them something to go with, right? Even though the system was down?
We had 4 ladies, plus myself, Brian was here, so we were able to take phone calls and we could send them an email confirmation
Right.
throughout the field. And the 1-800-5GO-HUNT number was on also.
Up also. That's good. Let's see.
But if the hunter did not have a renewed license and had it on his phone, well, he could show where hey,
I tried.
here's the number I've called and they'd shut down, then our officers certainly wouldn't give them a citation.
They did.
We had it happen several times.
I would assume they did.
they were told don't write citations. And, I believe they followed that very close, because we've had no complaints. We've had nobody, call in, to complain to us that they did try to get their license and didn't get it.
Okay. Any other business we need to talk about?
No other business?
I would like to recommend, if y'all don't mind, that we have the next meeting at our distinguished Gulf Coast.
Good idea. I'm good with that.
Okay. The date, we're still looking at is October 21st.
October 21st, what it says in 1 second.
No hurricanes.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
We may have to discuss the 21st.
Okay.
If I can do
We'll
that.
just put it to be announced.
To be announced, yeah.
Okay. There is a need for executive session.
So,
I'll make a motion, we'll close the meeting to determine the need to go into executive session.
a second.
all in favor?
And a second, and for the commission to go into executive session. The executive session will be to discuss transactions in business, or real estate, and possible litigation. The meeting is now closed.
We need to close the room,
Okay. All right,
or we need to go back there.
the commission has discussed the need and has confirmed there is a need to go into executive session to discuss issues of land matters, possible litigation, and possible land purchasing. The meeting is now closed.